Good day, everybody. Today we're going to talk about isolating variables. And to do so, first we're going to have to use the distributive property. So let's go ahead and get to work. Okay, so I've got this problem. 3 parentheses x plus 2, that equals 33. I need to know the value of x. So what I'm going to do is I need to get rid of the parentheses. So I'm going to distribute this 3 in front of the parentheses by multiplying it by everything inside the parenthesis. I'm going to take 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 2 is 6. Positive times positive is positive. So that equals 33. My next step is, if we look at the order of operation, to isolate a variable, I have to start at the bottom of the order of operation and work my way up. So I'm going to look and see, is there an addition or subtraction component? And there is right there. I'm adding 6 to my 3x. So I'm going to do the inverse of adding 6, which is going to be a negative 6 on both sides. Okay. Positive 6, negative 6, they cancel. So I get 3x equals 33 minus 6 is 27. I moved my addition over to the other side by doing the inverse. Now I have 3x equals 27. All I have to do is, because it's a multiplication problem, I divide by everything I see in front of the x, which is a 3. 3x divided by 3, they cancel. I have x by itself. 27 divided by 3, we know, is 9. So my x equals 9. I have to do a couple things here before I can isolate the variable. I have to distribute. Then I end up with a linear equation. That's your 3x plus 6. That's a linear equation form. Then I'm ready to isolate the variable. Let's do another one. Here's my next problem. I've got a negative 4, then inside the parentheses, I've got a x minus 5. That whole thing equals to 8. I want to know, what is the value of the variable. I'm just writing down on the side my order of operation. And I'm going to take and distribute this negative 4 throughout the parentheses. So I'm going to have negative 4 times x is negative 4x. Negative 4 times negative 5 gives me a positive 20. And that's going to equal negative 8. Now, once again, remember, order of operation, I'm going to work backwards when I'm isolating the variable. I look and see if there's an addition or subtraction component, and I see that there is. I'm adding a positive 20, so I'm going to do the opposite, negative 20 on both sides. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. You see what I lost my, no, I didn't lose my sign. We're good. That's going to be a negative 28. So I get a negative 4x equals a negative 28. For a second there, guys, just so you know, I thought I messed up on my signs, but I did not. Always double check your signs as you go, because it's easy to get them backwards. So now I see that I have a negative 4 times x. I need to divide by everything I see in front of the x. It's not just a 4, it's a negative 4. I have to do that on both sides. My negative 4x divided by negative 4, they cancel. So I'm going to end up with an x. Negative divided by negative makes that x positive. I have 28 divided by 4 is 7. Negative divided by negative also makes that 7 positive. I don't need to tell you it's 7, so I'm just going to write 7 down. Let's look at another one, but this time I want you to Try it before you work on it, before we work on it together. Do, 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 do. 24. Okay, good. Now, in this case, I have 4 parentheses, negative x plus 8, close parentheses, and that equals a negative 16. To be able to solve this, I have to simplify, get rid of the parentheses. I'm going to find the variable of x. So I'm going to take and distribute this 4 throughout the parentheses. So I'm going to multiply 4 times x is going to give me 4x. Positive times negative makes that 4x negative. 4 times 8, 4 times 8 is 32. All right? Yeah, 32. My main brain just went dead for a second. I have a positive times positive, so that's a positive 32. Sometimes your brain goes dead like that for a second. It's okay, guys. Just press through it. That whole thing is going to equal negative 16. Now, I have a negative 4x plus 32 equals a negative 16. So I see that I'm adding a positive 32, so I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to put that negative 32 there. My positive and negative 32s, they'll cancel. So I'm going to be left with a negative 4x on the left, negative 16 plus negative 32. Signs are the same, so I add. 6 plus 2 is 8. 4 plus 1 is 4. And I just keep the sign. So that equals a negative 48. Oh, wrong one. There we go. Let's try this again. Sorry about that. I was getting rid of the wrong thing. Okay. So what am I doing? I have a negative 4 times x. So I'm going to go ahead. The inverse of multiply, because negative 4x is negative 4 times x. So I'm going to do the inverse of multiply, which is divide by everything I see in front of it. My negative 4x divided by negative 4, they cancel. So I end up with x by itself. I've got 48 divided by 4. That goes in 12 times. I have a negative divided by negative, so my 12 is positive. My x is 12. Let's try another one. I'm going to try to give you guys lots of practice. Okay, let's try this. I've got a negative 2, parentheses, x minus 6, close your parentheses, equals 30. Let's go ahead and take a few minutes, give you a chance to try this, pause your recording, then come on back and let's work it together. Okay, so I'm going to distribute. That negative 2 gets multiplied by everything inside the parentheses. Negative 2 times x. Well, that's going to be a negative 2x. 2 times 6 is 12. Negative times negative is positive. That equals 30. Now, I see that I'm adding 12 to my negative 2x. So what I'm going to do is the opposite. It's a positive 12. So I'm going to make it a negative 12 on both sides. My positive and negative 12, they'll cancel. So I get my negative 2x by itself. And right here, I just have 30 minus 12. That's 8. Boom, boom. That's 18. Yeah, 18. I was doubting myself again, guys. Sometimes we doubt ourselves and trust the math. Now, I have a negative 2 times x. That equals 18. So I need to divide because that's a multiplication problem. Inverse of multiply is divide. So I'm going to divide by everything I see in front of the x. It's not just a 2, it's a negative 2. Negative 2 divided by negative 2, they cancel. Negative divided by negative makes it positive. 18 divided by 2 is 9. I have a positive divided by a negative. It's going to make that 9 negative. My x is 9. We're going to do 2 more, then we'll call it a day, guys. 2 more. Okay, let's look at this one. I have a 12 parentheses, x minus 7, close your parentheses, equals a negative 48. I need to isolate this variable. To do so, I've got to simplify this by distributing this 12 into everything inside the parentheses. So I take the 12, I then multiply it by the x, and 12, multiply it by the negative 7. So 12 times x is 12x. 12 times 7 is 84. I have a positive times a negative, so that 84 is negative. And that whole thing equals 48. Sorry about that. Drop my calculator. So at this point, what do I have? Well, I see that I have an addition component. I'm adding a negative 84. If you want to think of it as subtracting, that's fine. It's the same thing. I can add a negative 4 or I can subtract. I'm sorry. I could add a negative 84 or I can subtract 84. It's the same thing. I had to look at the numbers. Oh my goodness. Okay. So what am I doing? I'm adding that negative 84. So let's do the inverse of a negative 84, which is a positive 84 on both sides. My negative and positive 84, they cancel. So I'm going to bring down my 12x. It's going to equal 84 minus 48. And that's going to give me 36. Now, 84 is bigger. It's positive, so that 36 is positive. I end up with 12x equals 36. At this point, I see that all I'm doing now is a simple multiplication problem. 12 times x. Inverse of multiply is divide by everything I see in front of the x, and I'm going to do it to both sides of the equal sign. 12x divided by 12, well, they cancel, and I get my x all by itself. 36 divided by 12 is 3. So my x is 3. Let's do one more, and then we're going to call it a day. Okay, I want you to do this last one. Negative 10 parentheses, negative x plus 8, close the parentheses, equals a negative 50. Take a few minutes and work on this one. Okay, I have a negative 10, parentheses, negative x plus 8, close your parentheses, equals negative 50. Let's simplify so I can isolate the variable. I'm going to simplify get rid of the parentheses by distributing. I've got a 10 times x is 10x. That's a negative times a negative makes that 10x positive. A negative 10 times 8 ends up being a negative 80. And that whole thing is equal to negative 50. Okay? So I've got 10x minus 80 equals a negative 50. I'm doing an addition portion right now. Remember, I'm starting at the bottom of the order of operation because I'm finding the value of a variable. I'm not answering the question. I didn't say this already, but the answer to this problem is negative 50. I know the answer. I just want to know what is x. So I start at the bottom and I work my way up. I see that I'm adding a negative 80 or I'm subtracting 80, however you want to think of it. I'm going to think of adding a negative 80. So I'm going to do the opposite of a negative 80 is a positive 80. My negative and positive 80s, they cancel. So I end up with a 10x equals 80 minus 50 is 30. So 10x equals 30. I'm multiplying my x by 10. So I'm just going to divide by everything I see in front of the x, which is a 10. 10x divided by 10, that gives me my x by itself. 30 divided by 10 gives me 3. My value of x, or x equals 3. Okay, I hope this helped. I'll be doing another tutorial on linear equations, and this is basically a linear equation. The only difference, I have 10x minus 80, I'll make it equal to y. And I've already got a tutorial on that, how to solve it with a t-chart, and basically what are we going to do with it next. We're going to graft it, and I'm going to do a tutorial on that next. So be on the lookout for it. Thank you. Have a great day.